Picture this. You're on an island, maybe a remote spot, and you need something urgently. Medicine, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or maybe just sunscreen.
Yeah, right.
And instead of waiting for a car or a boat, you see this drone zip overhead and drop it right near you.
That's basically the idea we're digging into today, isn't it? We've got this really detailed analysis looking at Zipline drone deliveries specifically for Aruba.
Right, Zipline. And these guys aren't new to the game.
No, not at all. They're like the biggest autonomous logistics network out there globally. They've flown, what is it, over 100 million commercial miles?
Wow. Yeah, that's serious experience.
It really is. It tells you they know how to operate these things reliably.
So our mission, let's call it, for this deep dive is to really unpack that feasibility study. Can this actually work in a place like Aruba? What are the real pros and cons?
Exactly. And for you listening, this isn't just about cool tech. It's about how innovation like this could genuinely change logistics, especially for an island nation.
It's a really unique perspective. So practical solution or just pie in the sky? Let's find out.
Let's jump in.
Okay, first off, Zipline. It's not just one type of drone, right? They have different tools for different jobs.
That's right. There are two main systems, Platform 1 or P1 and Platform 2, P2. Very different designs.
So P1, that's the long-range one.
Yeah, think of P1 as the workhorse for distance. It can fly out 60 miles from its base, so that's easily a 120-mile round trip.
Okay.
Carries about 4 to 6 pounds, cruises around 60, maybe 65 miles an hour. And the delivery itself, it drops the package using a small parachute.
A parachute, interesting. So for an island the size of Aruba, that range sounds like it could cover pretty much everything.
That's the key point. Aruba's, 21 by 6 miles? P1's range means potentially just one central hub could service almost the whole island. That's a big deal for logistics.
Simplifies things massively. Okay, so what about P2 then? What's its specialty?
P2 is all about precision, short hops. It does vertical takeoff and landing, VTOL, like a helicopter, basically.
Right.
Smaller range, maybe a 10-mile radius, but it actually carries a bit more, 68 pounds, and it's faster, up to 70-mile reach.
And the delivery is different too, isn't it? Not a parachute.
No, this is the really cool part. P2 hovers, and then it lowers this little delivery droid on a tether.
A droid? Seriously?
Yeah. It means it can place the package incredibly accurately. Think like right onto a patio table or a specific doorstep.
Wow. Okay, I can see that being huge for, say, tourist areas or even direct-to-home medical deliveries in towns.
Exactly. It opens up those dense urban or resort areas where a parachute drop just wouldn't work. Precision is key there.
You mentioned delivering to hotels. What about, the practicalities? Noise, regulations, and busy spots?
Good question. On noise, Zipline seems to have worked hard on this. P1 is apparently designed to minimize its sound footprint, and P2 is described as being super quiet, like wind rustling through trees.
That's pretty impressive if it holds true.
Yeah, and important for acceptance. Both are also built for all-weather flying, which matters in Aruba with those trade winds and occasional rain showers.
Right. And this isn't just about the flying machines themselves. There's a whole system behind it.
Oh, absolutely. Zipline is what they call vertically integrated. They design the drones, build them, write the software, manage the whole operation.
So they control everything end to end.
Pretty much. They have software for their partners to manage orders, track inventory, the works, and, an app for the end customer to see where their package is.
Okay, so it's a complete package, pardon the pun. That could make adoption easier for businesses or health services in Aruba.
Definitely simplifies things.
All right, so we've got a good sense of Zipline's tech. Now let's pivot to Aruba. What makes it a potentially good or bad fit for this kind of thing?
Geographically, Aruba has a lot going for it. It's small, like we said, 21 by 6 miles, and it's very flat. No mountains or big hills to worry about for flight paths.
Okay, that simplifies navigation, I imagine.
Big time. Plus, its climate is pretty stable. It's south of the hurricane belt, which is a huge advantage. You do have consistent trade winds, but that's something drone systems can generally be designed to handle.
So the physical environment seems, broadly speaking, pretty favorable.
Generally, yes. And this tech also seems to mesh really well with where Aruba wants to go strategically.
How so?
Well, they've been very public about wanting to diversify their economy beyond just tourism. They're targeting logistics, the knowledge economy. They even talk about being a testing ground for breakthrough technologies.
Ah, okay. So this fits that narrative.
Perfectly. They also want to export sustainable island solutions.
Yeah.
A zero-emission drone network could be a showcase for that.
Makes sense. What about the nuts and bolts, the existing infrastructure? Airport, ports, roads, power, internet. Can Aruba support this?
It's a mixed bag, but mostly positive, I'd say. The airport, Queen Beatrix, is well developed and expanding. The seaports, especially Barcadera, are being upgraded for more cargo.
Okay.
Road networks, extensive, pretty well maintained. And importantly, you already have logistics players like FedEx on the island, so there's an existing ecosystem, maybe potential partners or competitors, depending how you look at it.
Right. And power, internet. Those are critical for Zipline's hubs and connectivity.
Yeah, energy-wise, they've relied on heavy fuel oil, but there's a big push for renewables, wind, solar, plans for natural gas. They have grid management systems exploring storage. It suggests they can handle the load.
And comms.
Telecoms look decent too.
Yeah.
CTAR and Digicel offer 3G, 4G, even 5G now. Reported download speeds seem reasonable for the kind of data Zipline needs.
So physically, infrastructure-wise, it seems mostly ready, or at least heading in the right direction.
Pretty much. But, and this is a big but.
Here it comes, the regulations.
Exactly. This is the crux of the issue identified in the analysis. Aruba's current drone rules are, well, they're not built for this kind of operation.
What are the specific problems?
Okay, so right now, you need permission for every single drone flight. There's a low altitude limit, just 200 feet. You absolutely must keep the drone within your visual line of sight, VLOS, no night flights, restrictions near the airport, near people.
And Zipline needs.
Zipline fundamentally relies on beyond visual line of sight, BVLOS. Autonomous flights over long distances where no single operator can see the drone the whole time. Aruba just doesn't have a commercial framework for BVLOS yet.
So that's the showstopper, potentially.
It's the single biggest hurdle, yes. Without regulatory change, the current model Zipline uses just isn't allowed.
Is there any reason to think Aruba might be open to changing those rules?
Well, possibly. The analysis points out Aruba has a generally well-educated, multilingual workforce, and they have shown they're open to new tech, like that biometric pilot program at the airport. So there might be an appetite for innovation if the case is made well.
Okay, so a major challenge, but maybe not an insurmountable one. All right, let's pull this together. Based on the tech and the Aruba context, what did the feasibility analysis actually conclude? Operationally first.
Operationally, it looks like a really good match. The island size, the flat terrain perfect for Zipline's range, especially P1 for island-wide coverage, and P2 for those specific urban or tourist zones.
And the infrastructure needed hubs, docks.
Yeah, they'll need to build hubs, install docking stations, ensure reliable power and internet. But the analysis suggests this is all achievable within Aruba's capabilities and development plans. It requires investment, obviously, but it's feasible.
Okay, operationally viable. What about economically? Is there a real market here?
The analysis sees significant potential. Healthcare is a big one, connecting the main hospitals, Dr. Horacio Duber in IMSAN, with clinics for super-fast delivery of, say, blood, vaccines, meds.
And Zipline has data on this from other places, right?
They do. The study mentioned this striking stat from, I think it was Rwanda or Ghana, where Zipline deliveries led to something like a 51% reduction in deaths from postpartum hemorrhage because blood got there faster.
Wow. That alone is compelling.
Hugely. Then there's tourism. Imagine premium on-demand delivery right to your hotel room or even the beach. That's a unique selling point.
Definitely.
Plus retail, e-commerce, making that last mile much more efficient. Interbusiness logistics, even niche stuff like maybe delivering specific parts for equipment or high-value agricultural products quickly.
So a diverse range of potential uses. It's not just one thing.
Exactly. And beyond the direct revenue, think about the other benefits. Speed, reliability, reaching underserved areas, the zero-emission aspect, potential for new tech jobs.
Are there significant costs mentioned beyond setting up the sites?
Well, yeah, there's the site prep, the ongoing service fees to Zipline, and critically, the cost and effort involved in actually adapting the regulations. But overall, it aligns really well with Aruba's economic diversification goals.
Okay, which brings us back squarely to the regulations in airspace. That's the elephant in the room.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
The current VLOS rules just don't work for Zipline. So step one, fundamentally, is Aruba needs to develop and approve a BVLOS framework for commercial drones.
Can they just invent that? Or is there precedent?
Oh, there's definitely precedent, and that's where Zipline's experience comes in. They've navigated this exact process elsewhere. They have FAA Part 135 certification in the U.S., which is a big deal for drone delivery. They operate successfully under specific frameworks in Rwanda, Ghana, Japan.
So they could potentially help Aruba figure this out.
That's the idea. The analysis stresses the need for close collaboration between Zipline and Aruba's Department of Civil Aviation, the DCAA. Learning from Zipline's successes and maybe challenges elsewhere is key.
What about flying near the main airport? AUA, that sounds tricky.
It needs careful management, absolutely. Coordination between Zipline's system and air traffic control is non-negotiable. The study also mentions looking at examples like Japan's Gattu Islands, where similar services faced regulatory issues, weather impacts, last-mile hiccups. There are lessons to be learned there for Aruba.
So it's doable, but requires a dedicated effort to create that new regulatory space.
Precisely, it's the main condition.
What about the people side? Public perception, environment?
Environmentally, it's a strong positive. Zero emissions during flight. And we mentioned P2 is potentially very quiet. Socially, the big plus is improved access, especially for medical needs, maybe in more remote parts of the island, and the potential for those skilled jobs.
But people might worry, right? Drones flying overhead, privacy, safety.
Absolutely. The analysis is clear that proactive public consultation and engagement are crucial. You need to explain the benefits, address the concerns head-on about noise, privacy, safety to get buy-in.
Okay, so after weighing all that, what was the final verdict from the feasibility study? Yes or no?
The conclusion was nuanced. It called Zipline a conditionally good fit for Aruba.
Conditionally. And the big condition is?
The regulatory environment. It all hinges on Aruba creating that pathway for BVLS commercial drone operations.
Got it. So assuming Aruba does decide to tackle that condition and move forward, what would an implementation plan look like? What are the stages?
The analysis laid out a potential three-phase plan. Phase 1 would be all about planning and regulation, maybe 6 to 12 months.
Okay. What happens in phase 1?
You'd set up a working group, government, Zipline, airport, utilities, businesses, DCAA, really get everyone talking. The absolute core task is engaging with DCAA to get those BVLS approvals sorted. And alongside that, doing detailed site surveys to figure out the best spots for the hubs and those P2 docks.
Right, laying the groundwork, especially the legal and logistical groundwork. What's phase 2?
Phase 2 is building and testing. This could be, say, 12 to 18 months after phase 1 kicks off. You actually build the hubs, deploy the drones and tech, train the local workforce who will run it.
And then start flying.
Towards the end of phase 2, yes. But starting with limited-scale pilot operations. Focus on maybe healthcare deliveries first, perhaps some high-value tourism or retail stuff. The goal here is to gather real-world data on performance in Aruba, prove the system works, and show its value.
Collect the evidence, basically. And phase 3?
Phase 3 is scaling up. This is ongoing. You expand the service to more sectors, the ones identified earlier, like broader retail, maybe interbusiness stuff. You add more P2 docks across the island for better coverage, maybe even a second P1 hub if needed. And you're constantly monitoring, optimizing, making it run better.
Sounds logical. A phased approach makes sense. Did the analysis point out any, critical things that absolutely must go right for this whole thing to succeed?
Yeah, a few key success factors. Number 1, sustained government support and that regulatory agility we keep talking about. Without the government championing this and being willing to adapt rules, it probably stalls.
Makes sense.
Public acceptance. You need the community on board.
Yeah.
Infrastructure reliability is huge power, and internet cannot be flaky.
Non-negotiable for autonomous tech.
Right. Then, economic sustainability. It has to make financial sense in the long run, developing and keeping skilled local workers. And of course, safely integrating these drones with all other air traffic. No cutting corners on safety.
Okay, so wrapping this up then, the big picture is Zipline in Aruba. Lots of potential.
Huge potential, yeah. For better logistics, for hitting those economic diversification goals, for bringing in cool new tech, improving services for residents and tourists alike.
But it all really hangs on sorting out those flight regulations.
That's the takeaway. It's a major hurdle, but potentially solvable with Zipline's experience and enough local will. It requires a real collaborative push.
It does make you wonder, though. If Aruba is serious about being this hub for sustainable island solutions, what other tech might be just around the corner? Things we haven't even thought of yet.
That's a fascinating question. And what does this kind of autonomous logistics mean more broadly? For other islands, for remote communities everywhere that struggle with getting essential goods, it could be truly transformative.
Definitely food for thought. Thanks. This was a really insightful deep dive.
My pleasure. Lots to consider.